Hi, ladies and gentlemen. I am Morris Merriweather, the host of Straight Talk in Room 503. And this is my friend, and we want to welcome your family from our family a happy holidays. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so grateful for you to take the time out of your busy holiday schedule to come to class of Straight Talk in 503 to continue to discuss what is going on in public education. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for a change. And I would hope that as we close out this year, one of your New Year resolution will be, I'm going to draw in the struggle to improve public education so that all kids, regardless of their zip code, can have a quality of education and a quality of life that they so desperately deserve. Ladies and gentlemen, we must have a plan A. And don't worry, if plan A does not work out, the alphabet has 25 more alphabets that we can work on. So ladies and gentlemen, listen, we again must talk about what has been happening in my hometown, because I told you before, the same thing that's happening in my hometown is happening in your hometown. So you stay tuned, because I got some information that I want to give you. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell my partner here goodbye for a few moments, and we will get underway and talk about what is going on in my hometown that is going on in your hometown. Stay with me. Ladies and gentlemen, we have allowed in my hometown, and as I've said before, in your hometown, a lot of mess to go on. And when I say that mess, let me paint you a picture of what happened in my hometown, and it happened across the nation. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, back in the 50s and 60s and 70s and the 80s, there was vocational schools, because everyone knew that just because students was forced to go to school, not everybody was going to finish and get an education. And therefore, everybody was not going to college. So, ladies and gentlemen, the good old boys started planning over 40, 50 years ago. What can we do to help our children and excel them ahead of certain students? I do not have to go back and tell you who certain students are. So, ladies and gentlemen, listen, let me paint you the picture of what's going on in my hometown that's going on in your hometown. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's what they did. They began to discuss the idea, once we had integration, what we can do to go back to predominantly white schools and predominantly black schools. So they began to siphon the money from those predominantly black schools, and then began to pile that money away so that they can begin to start private schools and make sure that things was going well. So, ladies and gentlemen, since they knew that they was not interested in all kids getting an education, that explained why the predominant black schools, I attended Lincoln Elementary School. I shall never forget when on a rainy day, we had to go down the hall and dodge water because water was falling in the buckets. But then just across a couple streets was nice schools where there was no rain. The rain remained outside. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was when they began to talk about private schools and separating ourselves again, because we're under court order. Ladies and gentlemen, court order was in fact what helped to integrate the school. But ladies and gentlemen, they then created what is we know as white flight. That is why students of white race will go to the doctor and will say that I have headaches, I'm depressed, I can't make it, I'm having a difficult time. And the doctors will give them excuses, allowing them to go to schools where there was a small percentage of people of color. So all of that went on while court order was going on. Then in my hometown, while our so-called leaders in religious community and organizations, fraternities and sororities and federation were asleep, they began to, ladies and gentlemen, to decide what are we going to be able to do. We need to get out of court. So what they decided to do was what they call unitary status. Unitary status was the keeping of integrated schools and making sure that the court monitored what was going on. So they brought in a superintendent, while our so-called leader was in my hometown was asleep at the wheel. They brought in this lady from Florida, and she came in, and her number one goal was to be able to get us out of this unitary status. So she went and infiltrated our community and began to go to the religious communities. They began to have reception, where our so-called leaders was whining and dying by this superintendent. I did not attend any of those things. I had more sense than that. Ladies and gentlemen, it did not make sense for us to be going on and meeting and talking with someone without a plan, without an agenda. So they knew that we did not have an agenda. So they began to make plans for unitary status to be taken away. Ladies and gentlemen, they was able to convince our so-called leaders to help get them out of unitary status. And they was able to do that and successful. Unitary status was done away with. Ladies and gentlemen, stay with me. I will give you the rest of the story. Just hang with me. We're going to get this story out. So, ladies and gentlemen, once they were successful in getting us out of the court, therefore, then that's when they began the real push to attend private schools and to make sure that they created programs that certain students will be helped and others would not be helped. Ladies and gentlemen, it was then that a program was created called GEM. GEM was a program for certain students. They had to include African Americans so that not to send up a flag. So there was a few percentage of African Americans was able to attend these classes. Ladies and gentlemen, in the course of a week, 2 to 3 times a week, students would get extra help in the middle of the day. The extra help was to make those other students more competitive than certain students. Oh, you get the message. You're not that crazy. You're not that dumb. So, ladies and gentlemen, listen. I was subbing in the schools, and I wondered why the certain students would get up, and I began to ask questions. Somehow, someone found out that guy named Meriwether, he's not like the rest of them. He's asking questions. He's talking to teachers. He's talking to students. He gathered information. Ladies and gentlemen, it was during that time that the powers to be said we must stop this guy named Meriwether, because while the rest of them are asleep, this guy is asking intelligent questions. Where did this guy come from? Well, he came from integrated school. He was among one of the first 10 that attended integrated schools. What school did he graduate from? Oh, Jackson High School. Why? Oh, I remember him. He graduated in the top of his class. Oh, he's one of those smart. I don't need to say the word. You know what it is. So at that point, it was a push. We must get him out of our school system. We must get him out because while the others are asleep, this guy can hold us up. We're here to push certain programs, and we're to help our kids so that they can excel. We cannot have them doing everything and taking them jobs away from our children. So there was that push. But ladies and gentlemen, listen to this. I was at that time attending an NAACP meeting with different groups, talking with the religious community, and trying to talk with the sororities and fraternities about concentrating on improving public education for all children, and in particular those African-American students who was being left out of the loop. But ladies and gentlemen, you may not believe this, and it's happening in your hometown. I could not get any of my people to gather forces and join me in this fight for public education. Here it is now, 2016. The phone lines are still quiet. The books are not jumping off of the shelves. People see me on the street. Hey, Brother Meriwether, they don't even discuss public education. So, ladies and gentlemen, the powers to be and the good old boys, they're saying it's working. It's working. Meriwether and that Reverend Baxter, they're the only one that's out here pushing for these kids. The rest of them are playing games with the kids. They're not serious. They're not serious at all. So all we need to do is to keep Meriwether and that Reverend Baxter away from the school system. So, ladies and gentlemen, when Reverend Baxter and I began to make tours of the schools, word came down the pipe, do not let them come up with reasons. Do not show them tours. Do not allow them into the system. I know that Meriwether guy. And so, ladies and gentlemen, out of the 27 schools, 5 to 6 of those schools, the administrators would not allow us to tour the facility. And ladies and gentlemen, there was teachers in the school system. Some of them was not people of color. They would come up and says, you know, we're not being able to do what we need to do. Ladies and gentlemen, I knew the reason for that. And ladies and gentlemen, I tried to each week get the information out. And here we are now, closing out another school year. And still the community, religious leaders, and the people of this community and your community is not doing anything. Because, ladies and gentlemen, across this country, public education is at an all-time low. Here it is, we have just elected another president by the name of Donald J. Trump. And Donald J. Trump has selected a woman Betty DeVoe, that has no experience in public education, didn't attend public education, no experience in public education. Her expertise is making sure that the voucher system, a voucher system that would help students of the white persuasion to be able to attend private schools and receive vouchers that would allow them to be a state-of-the-art classroom, have teachers of quality, have the resources to do what they need to do, basketball courts, soccer fields, all of that. And ladies and gentlemen, and then in our community, we can't even get a football stadium. JCM was closed, never did have a stadium. But yet, Southside, which is out south, where some of the white students attended, a majority of them, there was a stadium. Now they're talking about improving the stadium out there. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been asleep at the wheel. Stay with me, because we're going to dig further into this problem that we call public education. Ladies and gentlemen, come sit a spell with me and my friends. Let me read you something that was in the local paper. The title of it is, President-elect has contempt for U.S. It was a joke on Saturday Night Live. The president-elect and his fortune fuel-loving EPA administrator was going to protect us from the environment. But really, it's not a joke. It is an accurate depiction of all that Donald J. Trump appointees. Instead of serving to ensure minimum standards for labor, President Trump appointed an opponent of, stay with me, ladies and gentlemen, getting tongue-tied, President Donald J. Trump, soon to be President Donald J. Trump, appointed an opponent of minimum wage to be Secretary of Labor. Now, how about that? A man that is opposed to public education, is opposed to, ladies and gentlemen, please forgive me. The paper is moving and it's very difficult for me to read it and hold it at the same time. So let me start back over. But really, it's not a joke. It's an accurate picture of Donald J. Trump appointees. Instead of serving to ensure that minimum standards for labor is taken care of, Donald Trump appointed an opponent of minimum wage to be Secretary of Labor. Ladies and gentlemen, an opponent of civil rights and voters' rights will, if confirmed, be in charge of the Justice Department. An opponent who is a man who is opposed, listen to this, opposed to civil rights, opposed to the voters' right, if confirmed, will be in charge of the Justice Department, which will not be a kind of justice we're used to. Rick Perry wanted to eliminate the Department of Energy when he was running for president 4 years ago. Now he will get to run it in the ground. Donald Trump's choice of Secretary of Education is a strong supporter of private schools. Ladies and gentlemen, how is public education going to flourish at a time when you have Secretary of Education who is opposed to public education and a strong supporter of private schools? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the man that we stayed home and allowed to win. But the appointment of David Freeman as ambassador of Israel may be the most offensive of them all. Freeman is aligned with the far right in Israel politics. If you don't know what that means, you just consider this. According to Freeman, most American Jews, many of whom happen to be liberal and progressive, are no different from the Jews who aided the Nazis during the Holocaust. If it is hurting and insulting and offensive that a man who has been tapped to be ambassador of Israel compares us Jews who are strong supporter of the state of Israel, ladies and gentlemen, that is bad. Let me read further. Among the most troubling aspects of Trump's choices, aside from its impact on the Middle East, is the near certain that it will be provoked a different and diverse battle above political reasons, ladies and gentlemen. But as proven every day, listen to this, Donald Trump is not a normal president. I hope you already knew that. And much as I hate this business of it's not my president, the most choice Donald Trump made, the more choices that Donald Trump made, the harder it is to accept him as any other than the worst president in this country has ever elected. Think about this. They said that President Obama is the worst president. This man is now being recognized across this country, across this nation, as one of the worst incoming presidents that this nation have ever had. But yet, people are flocking on his side. It is simply impossible. This is what the article is saying. It is simply impossible for me to think of a single American president in my lifetime who could appoint a man like David Freeman to any office. My. This is not Saturday Night Live. This is in just over a month. This will be real. The answer to whether to laugh or cry is clear. The tears are not for me, but for the civilian and the mutual respect that Donald Trump is shedding. And he does not even care. Not my president, I'm sorry to say. Ladies and gentlemen, public education and other areas of government is in trouble as Donald Trump prepares to take office. Ladies and gentlemen, mark my word, when we look back, President Obama will have went down as not having all the favor of the good old boys. But ladies and gentlemen, he will turn out to be one of the best presidents that this country's ever had. We was not ever embarrassed. There was nothing that you could say negative about his daughters or his wife or him. No scandals during the whole 8 years that he was in there. But this Donald J. Trump guy, he's going to show America what America really is in for. Ladies and gentlemen, stay with me. I'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, listen. If we want smart leaders, we must have smart voters. Let me run that by again. You may miss that. If we want smart leaders in our community and in our state and in our nation, we must have smart voters. You must be informed. You can't stay away and not attend meetings, not ask questions, not read things of interest for your children and say that you're intelligent and you know what you're doing. We need to be a rock for the next generation to come. This next generation that we're talking about is a generation that's growing up with no hope. We have got to put hope into the young generation if they are to have a quality of life that we was not able to have. And ladies and gentlemen, it's a very sad day. But check this out. The United States has spent a staggering $8.37 million per hour on war since 2001. Let me do that one more time. The United States has spent a staggering $8.37 million per hour. And ladies and gentlemen, you do know there's 24 hours in a day. On war since 2001. And ladies and gentlemen, if I can do the math for you, that's 15 years ago. And we've been spending $8.36 million an hour. Can you imagine what that much money would do in public education for every child, regardless of his area code? would be able to receive adequate and equitable education. Ladies and gentlemen, the taxpayers are putting additional, listen to me, $528.5 billion, we the taxpayers, into the Department of Defense for other non-war causes. And we're hollering about public education. And the good old boys are trying to make you think we need to get rid of these people in the housing complex. We need to quit being handout to these people. We need to get these people off of welfare. And yet their friends and their relatives are in position to make millions. Have you ever stopped to wonder where all these people are getting all this money and how they're able to live in certain area codes? Ladies and gentlemen, don't be stupid. You and I are paying for it. And we allow the same people to push our kids down and keep them from getting a quality education. Ladies and gentlemen, that's wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin to wrap up this show, I want you to know that God does not like pretenders. Pretending that you care for all children, and you know good and well that you don't. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for some real people to stand up and take a stance. As we begin to close out this year, in just a few days, we should be ending the year of 2016 and headed to a brand new year. My challenge to you, ladies and gentlemen, and members of this class, it is time that you quit pretending that you care and get about your Father's business of making sure that all children enjoy a quality of life, regardless of their zip code. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Morris Merriweather, professor of the class of Straight Talk, and my co-host, Reverend Jane Baxter, challenge you to become a part of the struggle. And let's save all children. It should not be based upon your economic background and the color of your skin. Every child, every boy and girl needs a quality education. And I'm an advocate for that. No time have I ever advocated for only black students. All students are important. Everybody is somebody in God's sight. He made us all equal. Man wanted to change that. Don't join that band. There is a place called hell that's waiting on the people who have kept God's people down. Don't let it be you. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Morris Merriweather, the host of Straight Talk in Room 503 and the author of Enough is Enough. And I thank you for joining me. We have one more class before we conclude this year, and I trust that you will attend that class. So join me as we improve public education, because ladies and gentlemen, it has spiraled out of control, and you know that it has. And my question is, what are you doing about it? So ladies and gentlemen, from my family to your family, I wish you a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to you. And thank you for attending the class of Straight Talk in Room 503. I look forward to one more session, then we will conclude and go into a brand new year. Thank you again for attending. And remember that God loves you and he wants you to be about the Father's business of making sure that every boy and every girl, regardless of their zip code, get a quality education. Don't be a part of the good old boys who are marching themselves straight into hell. Ladies and gentlemen, it's something to catch hell on earth and die and go to hell. Don't you be one of them. Take it from me, your host of Straight Talk in Room 503. Take care, ladies and gentlemen. Until then, I'll be seeing you.